All right. My name is Doug Kreitzberg. Welcome to another exciting episode of Click Happens. I'm a CEO of SeedPod Cyber, and joining me is Kyle Sadi, our CRO, EVP of Underwriting, and Sinclaire Morris, who is our account manager for our MSP partners. Sinclaire, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Awesome. Kyle, how about yourself?
I'm great. Fall weather's amazing. Good Monday.
Good.
Can't complain.
What's is there anything left in the garden to harvest, or is that all done?
Can we take the 30 minutes to talk about this, Doug? Is that okay? The salad's still coming, but no? Okay. All right. Well, salad's still coming for another week. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, good. And now pumpkins, are you doing pumpkins?
No, this was a first year fail. In September, I thought about pumpkins, and then I was reminded and told that you plant that, I think, in June. So next year, planning
okay.
pumpkins.
Okay. All right. Sinclaire, do you have a green thumb at all?
Yes, we just started gardening season here in Florida because during the summer, everything just fries.
Oh, wow. So what did you plant?
I've got some squash, cucumber, romaine lettuce, some onions, broccoli. We've got a lot going. We'll see though, first year. So it could go either way.
There you go. We only hire people at SeedPod who know how to garden just because of our name.
Yes.
Cyber and gardening, is that the two?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And actually, if you go to any of the conferences that we attend, typically our giveaway is a packet of seeds because it kind of ties into our brand, and they're, be quite honest, they're easy to carry as you're flying to whatever conference you have to go to, rather than a lot of what are they, stress balls or the cups and that other people seem to bring. But in any event, we could talk, I'm sure, for a half hour about gardening. It sounds like, but I'd like to talk about. I was at an event, Chamber of Commerce event last week, and talking to a group of about 50 people or so, business owners, certainly small business owners, about our MSP partner was there as well, talking about cybersecurity. I talked about the cyber insurance. And I started out by asking a question, how many of you have cyber insurance today? And only one person raised their hand here. And as we've talked about before, from a industry standpoint, Munich Re, a reinsurer for cyber insurance, has stated, Swiss Re has stated pretty much the same thing. The market share for small, medium business owners is only around 10%. And arguably, if you were looking at that room, you would say it's actually a lot less here. Sinclaire, you do a lot of work with the clients of our MSP partners. When you're talking to the clients, are they pretty much new to cyber insurance? Is this their usually first time that they're talking about it?
Yeah, in most cases. But I would say over the last year, I've kind of noticed a shift in more C-suite, leaders prioritizing and thinking about cyber insurance. So hopefully that won't be the case as we look forward, because, it's dangerous not to have. But yeah, most of the time it's first time around. And that's why we walk through, the coverage details so they can really understand what they're paying for and what this line of coverage covers, which I think is part of the battle, right? I don't think a lot of small to medium-sized business owners even really understand what this type of coverage offers versus their other lines.
Right. And why, when they come to you for the first time, what's the reason? Did they just wake up that morning and decide over their cup of coffee, I really should do something about this because somebody could hack into our system and destroy us, or is there something else that's motivating them?
Yeah, rarely is it that. Although, hopefully that will change as education on cyber insurance becomes more readily available on the internet for small to medium-sized businesses. But no, typically it is because of a contractual agreement. As we all here know, third parties are increasingly becoming a point of entry for incidents. And so with that, we're seeing contractual obligations are evolving to now require you to have cyber insurance. So a lot of those first timers coming in to SeedPod asking us for quotes, that's usually the situation. The other side of that is also those partner clients. And that's because their trusted MSP is advising them that this is important as someone who understands technology and, how minuscule a vulnerability it takes to really be a victim to an incident. So it's usually those two.
Okay. All right. Got it. And when you talk to them about the coverage, what, are they surprised about what it covers? Or are they, not surprised? Are they looking for something else, you think?
No, I definitely feel like when we're going through the coverage line by line, you kind of see light bulbs go off like, oh, this would cover me for, lost revenue while I'm down. Oh, wow, this would cover forensics and actually restoring my data. That's, pretty important stuff. So usually you see the light go off as you're going through it in more detail.
Right. And the when it gets down to price, once you're able to put the terms together, are they surprised about the cost? Do they have a sense that it's larger? It might be more premium, less premium, or they haven't really.
Yeah, right. And that's hard because they, like we just talked about, in most cases, haven't had a previous policy. And I will say, going into those conversations, I think most of the time they're anticipating a larger number.
Right.
There was definitely a point where it was very expensive to get a cyber insurance policy, but the market has stabilized and it has become a lot more affordable, especially if you've got the right controls in place and you're doing, all the things that you need to do to protect yourself.
Right. Yeah. And do you think that the insurance has been has helped to motivate those businesses to actually improve their cybersecurity?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sorry to keep putting you on the spot here, but what type of, what are some examples of that you can come up with?
Well, I mean, our insurability audit with that risk profile, I think really does help. But almost everyone we're talking to or that I speak with has MFA deployed, right? But some of those, the hardening controls that I think of, like encryption on endpoints and data at rest, I see that one lacking a lot. We let our partners speak to that, obviously. But like an EDR, I see that one come up a lot. There's a reason why carriers are looking for some of these baseline security controls.
Right.
And that's because they know that they mitigate your exposure pretty significantly. So yeah, I definitely think they hear it from their MSP, of course, or whoever's advising them on their IT solutions. And then we can come in and, the carriers are expecting the same. So.
Right. Exactly. And Kyle, from your perspective, and you've been, working in this market for some time. What has the marketplace? Why haven't they been able to kind of reach those small businesses in the way that maybe other insurance products have been able to? You think?
Yeah, I appreciate your story in the beginning because it continues to give me perspective. So my background, very big background in middle market. And then I do have, a background in large risk and small middle market, small businesses. And, we keep hearing these statistics that the small business market is very much undersaturated. And when I hear your stories like that, Doug, of you're sitting in a room of 50 potential clients and one has cyber, I mean, that just reaffirms the stats, right? I think it really goes back to some things we've talked a little bit about in past podcasts. One, education. It's really difficult to get the education out. Cyber coverage, it's not complex, but it's really packed full of coverage. And because of that, you have so many different elements. And I think a lot of traditional insurance, maybe brokers and even carriers, struggle to look at it and understand it and talk about it. Once you do go through it a couple times, and I know Sinclair's like a master of explaining it. Like once you get some basic level education there and you start explaining it, it's pretty easy to understand, especially with examples of what this coverage is doing. And then I think the ease of getting to a quote, again, we live in insurance has a bad rep, or maybe a sensible rep of being behind the times. And sometimes I can see that's very true, where again, it's 2025, we're talking about technology and everything, yet a lot of times we're asking clients to complete an application. And again, these clients, they have day jobs. Their business model isn't to complete insurance. So, it's a lot for them to take that time. And, some of the things, Doug, we've talked about is what the future looks like, and to solve some of those problems, things like telemetry or taking data from systems to really understand what a client's controls are before the client even has to get involved. Nothing intrusive, but just some information that's available. And then really getting terms out there and trying to explain them so that a client understands the need for it. The easiest sell is obviously when a client goes through a cyber event, which we don't wish on anyone, but unfortunately that happens, and that's why we're, a big part of why we're here.
Right. There it is. The education is a tough part. I think, again, we've talked about it before, but the education can come from a number of different areas. When it comes to insurance, it's usually that insurance broker who's explaining what the product is and how it works and why it's important. And for these small businesses, for the most part, the insurance agents don't have the comfort around the product themselves in terms of really explaining it. And so that's an area that I think will continue to be, something that needs to be worked on. And with regards to, on the technology side, Sinclair, today we're, pretty much positioning or writing the insurance is through, the MSP channel. And so, those MSPs are getting us that behind the firewall look at the environment. Imagine, our ability to kind of get that data through, the system itself, in which not only can we help the client, but we would also be able to help that MSP perhaps identify early on issues or gaps in the client security environment. Do you see that as perhaps being a positive thing and for both the MSPs and clients?
Absolutely. Always when I'm talking about cyber insurance, I would definitely veer on the side of being proactive than reactive. And I think something like that would allow us to be so much more proactive.
Right. Yeah. And the technology is getting better in terms of the ability to kind of pull these solutions in. Kyle, why hasn't the insurance market, done this already?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, just the fact that, the U.S., I'll just talk about the U.S. cyber market for a minute. It's the most saturated market in the whole world. Because if you start to look at other countries, cyber market, even from a middle market, large risk purchaser, is still behind the times. They're understanding the exposure, understanding that they have it, that sort of thing. So I think only now, or maybe the last couple of years, carriers are starting to build books of smaller clients and seeing that they can do it with losses, but do it in a profitable manner. And so there's more of that appetite. And when you have more appetite, that means more quotes going out, again, more education, all of that process. Now, why haven't we moved to, as a whole market, Again, the technology offering up front instead of getting, manual manual applications. I think it just really goes back to legacy companies. I worked for, way back in the day, I worked for a very large insurance company that, everybody knows who they are, but they're just, for them to move to a position like this where they're relying on technology and data from client systems and managed service providers, they would have to move, mountains to do that across the business. But it does allow the opportunity for smaller, more nimble organizations to maybe come in and fill that and be really forward thinking, to be honest. Because again, this is, to me, this is a requirement to get to a point where small businesses feel comfortable purchasing. And again, if you just do kind of the logistics quote of XYZ, this is how you get to a quote that's bindable. Again, I don't see the old way of working. I think this is the way to go. So it's a challenge for everyone, but I think it's worth the time.
Yeah, and I think it can help to also improve the security of small businesses. When we ask, on paper whether you have, which we are today for the most part, do you have multi-factor authentication or MFA? Do you have a backup solution? Do you have a endpoint detection response? In some cases, it's tough to ask the question the right way that kind of points to what they really should have in place. Versus when you're actually getting the data out of the system, you're able to really kind of see what that environment is at a much granular level. You're able to see, is multi-factor authentication, applied for admin on local devices? Is it applied, for all remote access across the board? What is the backup cadence there? As an example, is endpoint detection response applied to 60% of endpoints? Is it applied to 20% of endpoints? These and you're really kind of gathering data that then obviously it helps you in terms of, from an insurance standpoint, to select risk and to price it. But again, as we talked about, it can also help that small business to say, hey, look, if you just do, if you get this solution in place, we can offer you, this coverage at perhaps a much better price, right? And it can help really motivate or create that behavior that we want out of them to improve their security stack going forward. Right now, most of them are probably checking the box that they have it. Maybe, unintentionally, that maybe they think they have it. Maybe they don't understand what MFA is, or they don't understand what EDR. They think it's the old AV, antivirus protection. So of course they have it there. So I think there is an opportunity for technology to help there. And I'm sure that is coming, sooner than later there with regards to that.
Doug, what you just mentioned, it just came up in my head of painting like a picture of one of these potential small business clients where, perhaps you're partnering with an MSP and then, there's a partnership with CPOD, and, perhaps maybe they didn't install all the right tech stacks and that sort of thing. They have an incident, their MSP catches it, and they're able to upgrade their security. But then also on the back end, the insurance solution is jumping in, bringing the right vendors to help the client quickly. And then, you come out of that situation, a client that's gone through one of these events has improved security, understood, why the insurance is so important. That's kind of the scenario that I think it's a little bit of what you're alluding to, but we can definitely see playing out, because again, you don't want the opposite of where you're a client where you don't have the right relationship set up. You go through this by yourself, and that's very scary.
Yeah, it is. It is there. let's kind of pivot to not the opposite area, but just another part of town, and we'll still keep with the MSPs. I don't think you can go to a MSP conference these days without at least seeing a series of discussions, talk tracks on selling your company here, and it is MSPs, like quite frankly, insurance agencies are attractive to certain types of companies because they have recurring revenue. The whole basis of managed services is basically a recurring revenue stream, and that type of cash flow, assuming it's consistent, is attractive to those type of buyers here. In particular, the kind of the private equity marketplace here. Kyle, as you're kind of exploring this, kind of what are you seeing, and what's kind of motivations that's driving this?
Yeah, I think private equity is something that's been really talked about and important in the cyber and E&O marketplace in the last couple of years. You're starting to see brokerages set up practices as private equity. The thinking is that you're working with a broker, and it's much easier for them to do risk management and insurance offerings at a top level. And then, you think of in this example, if we say a private equity firm has acquired 50 managed service providers, if you can utilize the scale of resources and get better insurance coverage, better pricing, access to vendors, firms, that sort of thing on a scaled opportunity. So like I said, brokerages have been setting up some private equity offerings along with carriers. It's something very much top of mind, I think, for us. Again, we partner with managed service providers and their clients all the time. I think we're also, talking about it probably makes sense with private equity firms as well, because again, if we can bring our expertise to a wider audience right away, and again, leverage a lot of these great things that we're doing, I think it's where the market is already at for a little bit, and it's going to continue to grow in that world. But again, as you were saying, Doug, it makes sense that private equity firms are looking at managed service provider and building portfolios based off them.
Right. And from the MSP side, I think it makes sense to some to do this, to move forward for a couple reasons. One, certainly just the demographics. So you have the baby boomers and some of the late X's, not X's. Was it Gen X? I guess.
I always fail with the names, so I'm going to look at
the names. But as they're looking to kind of decide what their exit strategy is, unless it's a family firm or something, they typically will look to sell. And then, I think I think AI is going to exacerbate it, but even, the cybersecurity as an example, these smaller MSPs are having to decide, do I invest more resources and personnel to add on these capabilities so that I can compete? Or do I join forces where I'm able to get those resources to really help me with my existing clients and help me do a better job securing new business? And so I think that's a direction that a reason that many are going that way. And we're getting a couple of our partners we've heard that they've made that decision to move there. Does it come up a lot with you, Sinclaire, or periodically when you're talking to partners? Do they ask about, hey, what do you know about the buying and selling companies, or if they talked about what their next move might be?
No, they don't. I've definitely seen a few, like you mentioned, of our partners who have gone on to be acquired, but they don't. And that's probably a good thing, because I wouldn't be able to advise them much.
Right. Usually we're at the back end, right? When the deal is just about done, and they realize they need to do something on their insurance, which we don't have to go into details of, but creating a mechanism so that they can close out their liabilities so that they can move forward here.
But during that time, very high risk during migration of teams, systems, devices, hardware, everything. Definitely a very high exposure time.
Right.
That's a great point, Sinclaire. And I've definitely, I mean, there's stories out there. You could probably just Google it. I've definitely seen once or twice over the years where I would say a merger or acquisition went south because through discovery, so if you go back to really like traditional underwriting, and one of the standard questions with a larger organization is, what's your merger and acquisition policy? Like if you're bringing a company on, how are you making sure that they come to your cyber standards and that sort of thing? And there's definitely been discoveries in the past through a potential acquisition where a threat actor has been sitting in a system 6 months, a year, 18 months, nobody found out. And maybe they called it before they launched a ransomware attack, but that's definitely affected some acquisitions in the past.
Yeah. And it's a potential great way for to use that M&A process to put do a risk assessment. And I know from my experience of doing deals that usually once the finance guys and the business leaders get their head around the deal, they just want the damn thing done, get it done. And these compliance issues are sometimes steamrolled to get accomplished, but it can come back to bite them if there aren't taken, isn't someone kind of paying attention to that there. And so I'm sure we're going to be talking more about that. Well, obviously, as we'll continue to talk about, how the small business market is reacting from the insurance side to the needs of small businesses, and how small businesses are reacting to the risks that are facing them. Sinclaire and Kyle, thank you so much for your time again. Thanks for coming out of the garden, and we'll figure out how to slot in some more growth oriented organic growth. There you go, a true organic growth with the vegetables there. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye bye.